We're on? We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. I figured we'd probably spend a few minutes talking this evening, Be'ez Hashem, a little bit about Yom HaZikaron. Because, of course, tonight is Yom HaZikaron. In America, this is noted by schools as, a day to talk about a chayal that has given their life defending the state of Israel. To a certain extent in America, it's very academic. It's something that we talk about and we think about because while we feel a deep sense of pain, as well as a deep sense of hakaras hatov, as is appropriate, for most of us, it's not so much first person. In Israel today, somebody here? Come on in! Oh yeah, woo, shkoyach. In Israel today, especially this year, there is a very deep sense of very personal pain that goes on, specifically since October 7th, to the extent that you're talking about a country that, at the end of the day, has been in war, not just almost permanently for the last 2.5 years, but halachically, we could halachically define the state of Israel as being in a state of war for the last 78 years. And what I mean halachically, defining the state of war, so this comes up as a shal and tshuva halach l'maisa. The argument was when Rav Hutner's plane was hijacked, there was a debate of whether or not people could ransom him. This is the 70s. And PLA, whatever it was, they hijacked the plane, and there were a whole bunch of Talmidim that wanted to rescue Rav Hutner. They wanted to bribe the captors to rescue Rav Hutner. And the shaila was, is that mutter? Is it mutter to redeem hostages in such a way? And they asked Rav Chaim Kanievsky what he thought. Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, whether or not it was mutter to redeem Rav Hutner. And he said he thinks that it's aser. Why?
Because then it triggers a wave.
So there's two reasons. There's two reasons that one could one says that it's aser to redeem captives, and I'm not going to get into the whole question about redeeming captives, terrorists for. Hold on, let's put this on Do Not Disturb. There we go. Redeeming captives for terrorists, which is a different sugya. But the shaila is, can you pay additional money to redeem a Rosh Yeshiva, a Talmid Chacham, a Gadol Hadar, that is in a situation like this that's so terrible? And Rav Yaakov said he didn't think that it was mutter because even though Israel was not actively fighting a war at that point in time, the halacha is that during a war, you never give money to the enemy in any way, shape, manner, or form. You don't do that. Meaning, any money that you would give to the Palestinians would aid in their efforts to destroy Jewish lives in the state of Israel. Jewish lives bichlal in the world.
They're about to unfreeze $20 billion to Iran
right
now in exchange for the rest of their nuclear
uranium. In theory, which is scary on many, many different levels. And there's a lot to daven for, because we just have to remind ourselves that the big danger of Iran is not necessarily having the nuclear arsenal. It is wanting to use nuclear weapons. And with $20 billion, they can easily buy it from North Korea. There's a lot to daven for. We'll put that out bichlal. Meaning, don't assume that this is a done thing and that Iran is not trying to. Assume they are. And we might be in a situation where we don't have any good options, and malasat. But the din was don't give the money even to redeem Rav Hutner. Don't do it, because Israel is in a permanent state of war, which means that la halacha we are in war for the last 78 years, and that is overarchingly the feeling that Israelis have on Yom HaZikaron. Not to say that they have that feeling every day. 5 years ago, that was not the feeling of the day-to-day Israeli walking down the street. But on Yom HaZikaron, there is a feeling in Israel that we have been in a state of war for the better part of the last 80 years, if not permanently, consistently, perpetually. There is not a single family in Israel that doesn't know somebody personally for whom Yom HaZikaron is Yartzeit. That's it. That's the reality. Which means that we have a question to ask, and I want to talk about this bichlal. There is a question to ask of what does this mean in terms of our emunah, in terms of our hashkafa, in terms of the way that we look at the world. What does this mean in terms of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plan? Does it have to be this way? Is this the way that the Geula is supposed to come about? These are hard questions to ask. The first thing that we should note, Rav Kook speaks about this a lot, is that the Gemara in Yuma Daf Tes talks about the difference between the first Beis HaMikdash and the second Beis HaMikdash. It says the Gemara that the first Beis HaMikdash, shegalu avoinam galu kitzam. This is Daf Tes. The first Beis HaMikdash, that their sins were revealed, the end of the galus was also revealed. Says the Gemara, what were the sins? The sins were Gila Rai Shvichas Damin Avodah Zarah. The big three, right? Murder, idolatry, sexual immorality, out in the open. But Galu Kitzam. Because of that, because their sins were revealed, the end of their exile was also revealed. It was 70 years, and then they came back. Beis HaMikdash, Mikdash Sheni, Shelo Galu Avenam Loi Galu Kitzam. The second Beis HaMikdash, the sins were not revealed. So the redemption, the end of the exile was not revealed either. Says the Gemara, in the second Beis HaMikdash, everybody was learning Torah and they were davening that. What was the problem? Was sinas chinam. Was baseless hatred, which, of course, nobody ever believes that their hatred is baseless, right? They have baseless hatred. Me, I have good reasons, right? Baseless hatred, shkoyach. Loi galu kitzam, the end of the exile wasn't revealed. And what does it mean the end of the exile wasn't revealed? Means that we're still in that galus. And Rav Kook explains on that Gemara in a few different places a fundamental yesod, which is that there is a reality called a Jew that externally is a bad Jew. And then there's a Jew where externally they're a good Jew, but there's something very deeply missing inside. And he talks about this as the idea of the skula of being a Jew. I'll give the following example. Imagine you have a situation where you have a kid that misbehaves in school. Misbehaves to the point that he is a very bad student. Doesn't do any of his homework. Basically never shows up. Every day the teacher's taking attendance, he's not there. I've had many students like this. They come in, they come out, whatever, disaster of a student. So he gets called into the principal's office. Principal sits down with him and says to him, Bubala, final warning, if you don't start coming to school, we're going to kick you out. Now, does he want to be in school? No. But does he want to be kicked out? Also no. Why?
That's fine.
He doesn't want to ever show up.
But on his own.
What's the difference between a kid that never shows up to school and a kid that's expelled from school?
Repercussions?
No repercussions. Why doesn't he want to be kicked? Meaning, if he's kicked out, that would be gewaldic for him. He could be at home every day like he wants to be.
Shame and rejection, and it's not his choice. Lack of autonomy.
True, but Sachakol, he gets exactly what he wants. What changes for him day to day?
Nothing. He doesn't have the option.
Doesn't have the option, but more than that. He can come and shop. They said to him, you're expelled from school, you can come and hang out during recess if you want, so that we don't ruin your social life. Would he take that deal?
Yeah.
You think so? For sure not.
Why?
Because something changes when you're thrown out of school, which is your identity shifts. You go from being a bad student to not being somebody that belongs there. Right? And that's a hard shift that goes on, right? That's a hard shift that happens to this kid. Because right now, he doesn't want to attend. He is a bad student. But he's a student. He's part of the school. He might be numbered bottom of the class, but he's in the class. As opposed to, no, you don't belong here anymore. That's a fundamental shift in who he is. Now, there's a massive difference between the best homeschool student and the worst student in school. The best homeschool student is a great student, but he's not part of the school. He's not part of it. And the worst student in school, terrible student, but he's there. It's part of who he is. He is part of what that is. It's a question of identity versus the question of behavior. And those two things are fundamentally different identities. And they're also different metrics of how a person views themselves. It's fascinating. Throughout Tanakh, you find people do a lot of averos. There's a lot of people that do terrible things. But with arguably one exception in all of Tanakh, which we're not going to get into now, you never ever find a Jew that defects and becomes somebody else. You don't find it. They violate Avodah Zarah and Gila Arayis and Shvichus Damim. But assimilation doesn't happen in Tanakh. It's amazing. There's no assimilation. It's fascinating. No Jew ever is like, I'm done with this Judaism thing. I'm going to be a Moabite. I'm not dying. Doesn't happen. It's fascinating, right? Why? Why not?
I thought in Mitzrayim, like a lot of people wanted to stay and assimilate.
That's true.
Before they were a nation.
But once they get to Eretz Yisrael, they build a Beis Hamikdash. Even before that, right? There's no assimilation.
Even nowadays, in Eretz Yisrael, there's much less assimilation than there is in our country.
Correct.
Than the other country.
Correct. You might argue that that's something because of there's just less opportunity for it, which might be the same thing. But practically speaking, you find throughout Tanakh, kimat nobody is assimilating. Nobody defects away from the Jewish people.
In Tanakh, maybe not, but in history, you have.
In history, it's all over.
Yeah.
So my question is the following: why does nobody become a Moabite or an Ammonite or an Amalekite or a Canaanite? They don't disappear and become those people.
Why didn't they write it down? You were saying.
No. Were it to be that the Tanakh had such people, they would have said it. And I'll tell you how I know.
I mean, all people that convert to Christianity.
That's not in Tanakh.
I know it's not Tanakh.
That's afterwards.
Oh, Tanakh. Tanakh. I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay.
That's after the period of time of Tanakh. And the Tanakh is not shy to talk about everybody's Averis.
Including Moshe. Including anyone else.
Tzaddikim to Rishaim, the whole way through. Tanakh is not shy to tell you who did what, to whom, and when. Right? Colonel Mustard in the billiards room with a candlestick, right? This is what happened, who did it, where, right? Neil got that, very good. Right?
The identity of the nation was so strong, and like the legacy of these people who came out of Egypt and became like the world power, like, and were God's chosen people. Like, it was just, why would you want to leave that? It was so powerful.
It wasn't even a question of the power, but it was so deeply embedded in who they were that an Avera is an external. I'm a Jewish murderer. I'm a murderer, but I'm a Jewish murderer. Right? I'm an adulterer, but I'm a Jewish adulterer. I'm a thief, but I'm a Jewish thief. As opposed to, this is Rav Kook's Chiddush.
When the headlines, we want to keep the Jewish part out.
Right, but I'm saying, but that was their identity.
Don't claim them.
But I'm saying, second Beis Hamikdash, I'm a tzaddik, not so much a Jewish one. Meaning the identity was not Yiddishkeit, the behavior was Yiddishkeit. But the identity was not. And Rav Kook's Chiddush is that Geula happens not so much, and this is very different from the way that we normatively think about the world of Geula and Tshuva, but not so much when we return to observance of halacha, but when we return to an inner wellspring of understanding of who we are. That's not to say that those are not two sides of the same coin. They are. But when you talk about what's wrong with being in Galus, what's wrong with being in Galus is not so much a lack of observance. It's a lack of identity. That is the sickness of Galus. Galus doesn't mean we don't have the ability to keep mitzvahs. The sickness of Galus is that we don't have the ability, or we don't have the capacity to be Jewish. Doesn't mean that anybody's telling us don't daven and don't learn, don't keep mitzvahs. And we've spoken about this a number of times. This is what we say in the Haggadah Shal Pesach. Arami oved aviv v'yer Mitzrayim, that an Aramean wanted to destroy my father. And there, the Haggadah darshans from the Mechilta, from the Tanaim, Arami oved aviv, that bikesh Lavan lakras hakol, that Lavan wanted to destroy everything. Where did Lavan want to destroy everything? Where did he want to destroy all of us? Where does it say that Lavan wanted to destroy the Jewish people?
Well, he was saying, come be with me. He was the first one to say, assimilate with me. Just live in my house.
Didn't say assimilate, chas v'shalom.
But it was the Rashi with the Taryag mitzvah and stuff. Isn't that how they worked that out?
So Rashi says, meaning when Yaakov meets Esav, in Lavan garti. I lived with Lavan, Taryag mitzvah shamarti, right? Which is a Rashi, it's not a pasuk, right? I lived with Lavan, and yet I observed all 630 mitzvahs. Did Lavan ever hold Yaakov back from keeping mitzvahs? No.
But he didn't want to let him leave.
Didn't want to let him leave. So what does that mean?
Wanted him to stay.
He was a good
Wanted to be part of his family.
It's like an
household.
exile. It's like effectively.
If he
right?
would
Right.
have left, he never would have developed into
A nation. What he's saying is, you are more than welcome to be Jewish as you like. Be as religious as you like, but by me. Don't you dare become a nation. Lavan was the very first person to say, I'm not an anti-Semite, I'm an anti-Zionist. And he meant it. He meant it. He said, I have nothing wrong with your religion. You can have your religion. You believe in your God, I believe in my God. We are all open to everybody's religion. B'simcha Rabbah, come and stay by me. I will let you be as religious as you want. I will not let you be wealthy. God help you, you try to be wealthy. Oof. Say what?
God did help him.
Correct.
God help him.
100%. Right? I do not want you to be wealthy. Because if you're wealthy, then you become powerful. I don't want you powerful. I want you religious. And chas v'shalom, that you should ever want to exert your own independence and become your own person. And become your own nation. And develop your own sovereignty. And return to the land of your ancestors. Don't you dare. That's im Lavan garti v'taryag mitzvah shamarti. I lived with Lavan. He let me keep all the mitzvahs. But, Arami oved avi, he wanted to destroy me. And what we have been zocher to see since 1948 has been the steady return, not just of the Jewish people to the land of Israel, but the steady return of identity, of a resurrection of and a return to something that is not religious Judaism, but is cultural Judaism, is national Judaism. It is the Judaism that is skuli, that is am segula. There's mamlechas kohanim and a Goy Kadosh. Mamlechas Kahana means a kingdom of priests. A Goy Kadosh and a transcendent nation. And then Hashem says, V'atem tiyeli sgula mikol ha'amim. You will be a skula to me. What does a skula mean? Special. Meaning, you will understand that you're special. You will have an identity that makes you feel different than everybody else. That's an inyan skuli, Rav Kook says. That's something above and beyond what... It's not about the mitzvahs, and it's not about the averos. It's a chelik of what does it mean to be a Jew, even if I don't observe any mitzvahs. Without anything. Nothing. And the Gemara says in Mesachas Brachos that David HaMelech once found himself in the mikveh. And he said, Oy vavai, I'm not doing any mitzvahs right now. I've not tzitzis, not tefillin, I'm not davening, it's not Shabbos, not Yom Tov, not learning. I have no mitzvahs. And then there's a great simcha that he realizes, no, but I still have bris milah. What does that mean? When he's performing bris, no. Bris milah is that thing which is an indelible mark on the Jew that says, you are part of the Am Segula. It's an identity. It's immutable. It is irrefutable. It is persistent and consistent and all-encompassing. You're a Jew, no matter what. We spoke about this between Mincha and tonight, that's the middle of tonight in Sfiras Omer. For those who haven't counted, it's the 19th night of Sfiras Omer. Is Hoid Shibit Tiferes. Hoid Shibit Tiferes means, Hoid is gratitude, Tiferes means that aspect of Ter Yisrael B'Tifarah. Hashem who crowns the Jewish people with splendor. That's who we are. But Hoid means gratitude for that. It's geschmack to be a Yid. Thank you Hashem for making me a Jew. So you say every morning, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shelo ya'asani goy. And the Chazon Ish said that, he asked the question, why do you not say Sha'asani Yisrael?
In the non-Orthodox they do.
Right?
But that you're doing yourself.
So
That accomplishment is on you.
right, so the Chazon Ish, the way the Chazon Ish said it, the way the Chazon Ish said it was, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made you not a guy. You make yourself a Yid. Right? Meaning you were born not a guy. Good. Make yourself a Yid. You can go your whole life and never make yourself a Yid. That's the opportunity that you have. And that's the avoda. Which is exactly what we're saying here. Is that the avoda is to become a Jew. To figure out how to be that. To figure out how to become that. And when we talk about Yom HaZikaron, ultimately what we are talking about is people that gave their lives for that identity. Which means people that gave their lives for Geula. Regardless of their religious observance. It's a fascinating thing. I read this recently, that I'm not sure where the statistic comes from, but you can check it out. That for the first 30 years of the state, every high-ranking officer, basically, in the IDF, and basically every member of government, came from the kibbutz movement, which represented 3% of the Israeli population. Meaning these were the oisvarf, low-life, good-for-nothing, friar, treifan Yom Kippur people. They built up the state for the first 30 years. First 30 years of the state. The people that bled for the state of Israel for the first 30 years. Har Herzl Kimat for the first 30 years of the state were kibbutznikim. No Shabbos, no Kashrus, no Taras Mishpacha, no Tefillah, no Torah, no nothing. What did they have? Am Segula. Even if they didn't understand it, even if they didn't appreciate it, that was what they were. And Allah has come much more so, that more and more of the IDF and more and more of the Knesset, and Rahman al-Islam, more and more of Har Herzl, are boys that wore Kippah Sruga. These are people that believe Am Segula. And understand what they gave their lives for is not just the defense of the land of Israel, it is. And it's not just Kedushas Haaretz, Ha'am Haaretz, and it's not just the Medina. It's the people that died for Am Segula. And so we'll learn a small piece here, just a couple of minutes, that Rav Charlap writes in Meimarim. Of course, Rav Charlap was one of the primary Talmidim of Rav Kook. You'll find this in Meimarim Mayane Yeshua, which is Chelik Vav of the big set of Meimarim. Perek Chaf, which is titled Gilui B'Seich HaChoshech, the revelation that is inside of darkness. It writes as follows. Kol Gilui HaMizgala B'Seich HaChoshech I Efshar Shelo Yeh Bo K'tzas Choshech. V'lachein Gilui HaOros Lo Yiskenu Shiyu B'Galus Be'eretz HaChoshech V'Afela. It says all revelation that is revealed within darkness, it's impossible that it doesn't have a little bit of that darkness. It says, and therefore, the revelation of great light, Lo Yiskenu Shiyu B'Galus, it could never have happened in exile, Beretz HaChoshech V'Afela, in a land of darkness. V'yosem noach lahem la'oris halalu she'yisharu behis al musam u'vehestarasam. It's better that those lights should remain hidden in concealment. Af gam kol musag elyon kshu nimtzor lemi she'eni yochel hasiga. Likewise, any lofty transcendent idea, when it's given over to somebody that is not yet capable of understanding, hu machshichoi u'me'afeloi, he makes it even darker. Meaning transcendent ideas that are given over to somebody that doesn't chap, it's not that now he doesn't understand that thing. That thing which is too lofty to appreciate becomes more confusing. Try explain quantum mechanics to a 7-year-old. They don't leave with an appreciation of what they don't understand. They leave thinking, this is insane. Right? Meaning lofty concepts that, if you're not ready for it, it just makes things worse. And how much more so, ideas of godliness that are specific to the Jewish people. Even though other nations also sing and praise God. All of their praises, other nations of the world, even in as much as every praise is directed towards God, it all sounds like Avodah Zarah, because it is. Despite the fact that the Rambam writes that a non-Jew that's praying, you don't interrupt them, because ultimately all prayer goes to God through the wrong addresses, it's still Avodah Zarah. Meaning, we're not unhappy that non-Jews believe in God or gods. That's better than atheism. The Gra explains that Nevuah will only return when atheism is replaced once again with paganism and Avodah Zarah. Meaning atheism, the non-believing in, is much worse than paganism. But all of those pagan and idolatrous practices, though they are praises of God, it's ultimately blasphemy. And therefore, when the nations of the world call out in the name of God, what they ultimately do is hide their ideas of godliness, the truth of God. And the Shekhinah of Hashem retreats from this world because the ideas that people have of God are so tainted. So the presence of God is not felt. And therefore, as a result of that, there is more kfir, there's more denial of God in the world. Meaning, curiously, it is because of Avodah Zarah and paganism that atheism arises. Because the reality of God is hidden further. Because people don't know what God is. So people don't know what God is, then they don't believe in God. It says, Va'af gam Yisrael, and this is how it replies to us, Va'af gam Yisrael, am kodshoi, and so too with the Jewish people, Kshemargishim bepigmei hamusagim, when we encounter and when we feel these ideas. גם הם בחלים בשביל זה אמונה טהרה. וזהו רז מה שאמרו חז"ל, אם תראה מחרף ומגדף צפה לרגלה של משיח. What happens is that when the Jewish people feel how deeply tainted all of these ideas of godliness are, when you hear and when you feel that there is all of this blasphemy and ungodliness in the world, tzafel l'ragel shel Mashiach, await the footsteps of Mashiach. Why? Ki ha'chorif ha'agod shebi-Yisrael hu be'ikar klape ha'mechashchim she'na'atzu ha'amim b'musagim ha'elyonim. Because whenever a Jew feels a sense of blasphemy, what we are feeling is the taint of the dirt of impure ideas of godliness that have encountered this world. And what we desperately want to do is to separate it out, to explain and to exclaim what godliness is. Meaning when you feel that there's something wrong with the way that the world thinks about God, that's very healthy. It means that the Shekhinah is returning to the world. It means that when you hear people talking about God in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, that's good. That's healthy. Meaning, there was a Jew that once came to speak to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. You can see the video. It's a fantastic video. And he says, I'm a Jew for Yashka, and I wanted to come and bring these pamphlets to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Fascinating. Who brought these things? The Lubavitcher Rebbe says, thank you so much, takes all of them. And says, I'm taking all of them so that you don't have more to give out. I don't want you to give these out at all. And he says, and I daven that you should return to be an Eved Hashem, to believe in God once again. And he says, and all of the ills and all of the terrible things that happen in your life will be cured when you realize and when you do tshuva for this big Avera. And then this man says to him, with all due respect, Rabbi, nothing is bad in my life, everything is wonderful. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe says to him, there is no greater sickness than not realizing how terrible things are in your own life. And when you do tshuva, you will realize how bad things are in your life. And then you will do tshuva more and Hashem will fix them. Meaning, the fact that you don't think that there's anything wrong is the biggest thing that's wrong. So, and because of this, and because of this, because the Jewish people feel this, we feel how terrible this is. But all of this, when Jews are being blasphemous, and you feel Jews are being blasphemous, when you see it, the Osaf good-for-nothing low-life Jews that are blaspheming God, when you feel that, when you see that, you need to know that this is the external layer. Aval mitzad pnimi yosam, but on the inside, kulam onim va'onim bepe male, inside what is going on, they are screaming kashem she'en bilibcha ela echad kach, en bilibenu ela echad. The same way that you, Hashem, don't have anything in your heart except for one Jewish people, so to us. Meaning the pnimius of the Jew that is blaspheming against God is ultimately blaspheming against the ideas of God that have been put on us in Galus. And this is a big yesod that Rav Chalab speaks about and Rav Kook speaks about in a billion different places. That Jews that go off the derech are going off of the derech of Judaism that has been tainted by other religions. And this is the sweating out of the falsified versions of Yiddishkeit. and the re-revelation of Am Segula. And the Jews that gave their lives for Yom HaZikaron, for Yom HaAtzmaut, the Jews that we are commemorating, those Jews, across all colors and shades of yarmulkes or lack thereof, and non-Jews, is in recognition of Am Segula. That's the Yesod. That's the thing that we're commemorating. That's the thing that we're remembering. That's the thing that we're crying over. That's the thing that we're mourning over. It's those Jews. Because again, it's about defense of the state of Israel. And it's about defense of the land of Israel. And it's about ensuring that we have a place to run to. All of these things true. Which is important. This is beautiful. This is a very chashuv. But the thing that's happening is the redemption of, the resurrection of, the rescuing of that Am Segula that for 2,000 years of Galus was dressed up as frumkat, but was never felt internally. It was the desperate need to try to fit in with nations of the world, even in our Yiddishkeit. And the Jews that dropped their Judaism and came to build the land of Israel, says Rav Charlap, they dropped the Judaism that was tainted. And they haven't yet picked up a Judaism that is untainted. But what they developed within themselves is a Jewish identity that is, this is very not from of me to say, but that is beyond religion. It's a return to the non-frum people in Tanakh. Right? The Rishonim of Tanakh. It's a murdic thing. To be a Rasha of Tanakh. For example, Yeravam ben Nevat. Yeravam ben Nevat broke away from Shlomo HaMelech, meaning Rechavam. He built 2 Egel Hazavs, pulled everybody away from going to the Beis HaMikdash, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends Navi after Navi to go and speak to him, and to go speak to Malchus Yisrael for the next 300 years, to bring these chevra back. Why? The Rishonim of Tanakh. They were people that said, I'm a murderer, but I'm a Jewish murderer. Chris Baruch says, well, then you're mine. Then you're my murderer. You belong to me. I'm a Segula murderer. Russia, you'll burn in hell for it. But you're Jewish. As opposed to, Im Tarig Mitzvah Shamarti, but I have no Jewish identity. That's the movement that's going through the world for the last 80 years, 100 years, 150 years. And the truth is, it's happening now. Probably in the greatest way that we've ever seen. I get such cheshik from seeing this. There's a tshuva that's going on in Israel today of Jews with earrings and tattoos that do not wear yarmulkes, but wear tzitzis. What does that mean? Rishonim of Tanakh. There was an interview I saw with a Yid that grew up Hasidish, totally went off the derech. Does not wear a yarmulke. He has a podcast. Kamuvan. It's got long payers. And one of the people that he was schmoozing in the podcast said to him, like, why do you have payers? You're not wearing a yarmulke. Long payers. He says, you know why I have payers? Because I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish. It's not from, I'm Jewish. My great, not talking in the shtetl. My great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents in the Beis HaMikdash had payas. They didn't wear yarmulkes. Yarmulkes hadn't been invented yet, but they had payas, and I want to look like them. Because I'm Jewish.
Yarmulkes weren't around for the basic makers.
They had, by the way, they had sudar. They had either head coverings or whatever it was. Turbans and whatnot. Yarmulkes were later day inventions. But it's a payas. Everybody had payas. So the Torah says, don't shave it off. So I'm not going to shave it off. The mitzvah isn't what interests me. It's the Jewish identity of it. I want to look like my ancestors, not like my grandparents. It's very different. Not to say that there's something wrong with looking like your grandparents. It's fine. But the yid that says, I want to look like my ancestor, I'm going to have payas and tzitzis and earrings. It's what they look like when they came out of Egypt. Right? I put on tefillin every day. I have a girlfriend, I have a boyfriend, you weiß ich nicht. But I wear tefillin. Because I'm Jewish. That's what it means to be Jewish. It's beyond the mitzvah, you understand? It's beyond mitzvahs. It's a different identity. It means to be a yid. What does it look like to be a yid? For us, being Jewish means come to shul. Right? That's what it means. Certainly the non-Orthodox world, right? Jewish identity is confined to your attendance in synagogue. And I hesitate to say it, but the whole institution of that is in Galus. I was talking to somebody on Shabbos. The whole institution, by the way, of rabbis is in Galus. In Eretz Yisrael, days of the Beis HaMikdash, you didn't have rabbis. You had a Kohen, you had a Shofet, you had a Melech, you had a Dayan, you had a Sanhedrin. You had Parnasei HaTzibur. And Talmidei Chachamim. But there was no career called rabbi. There's no job. It's like, You got, shul, there were places that people died, there were Bati Knesses, that's true.
It was almost like they were copying the churches.
Right, meaning you needed to have some kind of formal function of religious functionaries.
Yeah, when you're exiled and spread out.
That's what you have.
That was to maintain the
Right.
continuity.
Well, the Kohanim are the spiritual leaders. Like that.
Correct.
The spiritual guidance.
Correct.
Into the Shov team, that was more like the law.
Yeah, 100%.
And Melech is.
Melech is state law.
Yeah.
Sanhedrin is the judiciary.
Yeah. They had like those were all different types of rabbis.
I mean, they were all rabbis,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Meaning they're all rabbis. Right? But the job of a rabbi, being a person in a shul in charge of a community, didn't exist. Wasn't a thing.
Well, they had leaders of communities.
Yes.
Like the elders.
Yeah.
Zikaron.
Yeah.
Basically.
Meaning you had old men, wise men.
Everyone was a rabbi.
Right.
It's a nation of rabbis.
Correct. You know what I'm saying? But that's what it is. That's what it comes down to. You have Rosh Yeshiva and Rosh Kollel and people that teach and people that learn. But everybody had other professions. Right? Meaning, everybody had another profession. That's how life worked. The institution of rabbinic spiritual leadership didn't exist. It's a Galus institution, the whole thing. The whole thing is a Galus institution. It's why Rav Soloveitchik fundamentally did not believe in the Rabbanut as an institution in Eretz Yisrael. They didn't think it was viable. There's a lot to say about Rav Kook's understanding of the Rabbanut. But that notwithstanding, the idea of Mamlechas Kohanim and a Goy Kaddish is ultimately the point. Is that everybody has this deep-seated Jewish identity. I have this conversation with somebody all the time. They're like, well, Rabbi, you have to go to shul because you're the rabbi. Right? And I tell people, no, you don't understand. My obligation to daven is exactly the same as yours. There's no way in Shulchan Aruch that says the rabbi has to go to shul and other people don't. There's nowhere. It's the same thing. Rabbi has to keep kosher. No, that's it. It's the same din for everybody. There's nothing about... You understand? Like everybody identity, it's an everybody identity. Where religious identity and national identity fuse together, that's geula.
I read something along those lines of how like this new identity that's happening in Israel. Along those lines, apparently now there's 1 million kids in Israel that have been born of like mixed Ashkenazi Sephardi marriages, and this generation of kids like they don't know the difference.
Right.
They're just growing up with this like it's like irrelevant Ashkenazi Sephardi. Like what's that?
Right.
And it's just like melding.
And we don't know what ends up with the nusach and what ends up with the blah, 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 blah. But understand, what does Ashkenazi mean?
2 generations from now, it could just be
It's going to be gone.
It could be, yeah.
Yes.
It could be like melded together.
Meaning, what does Ashkenazi mean? German, right? And Sephardi means Spanish.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Where do your parents come from?
Toronto, like whatever.
And before that?
Poland,
Pol-
Russia, Ukraine.
Right, I'm saying, you've been holding the word Ashkenazi
Right, it doesn't.
for 600 years.
Yeah.
Nobody from your family comes from Germany in the last 600, maybe, right? You call yourself Ashkenazi because that was like the last place that you had some level of identity. What does the Jew in Morocco have to do with, whatever it is, Barcelona? It is nothing. Gets lumped in with Sephardi. What is Sephardi? They all come from Spain? No. Right? You get lumped it because that was a place that we had an identity at some point in time. At some point in time, we are not going to be Ashkenazi or Sephardi. We're going to be Jewish. That's it. And at some point in time, there will be no difference between Belz and Ger and Ashkenazi and Sephardi and Temani. I mean, all of these names that we've picked up of all of these places since wherever,
All from exile.
they are all names of Galus. And at some point in time, which is how the Gemara in Yevamos described it, Eliyahu Novi is going to come along and be like, no. You're from Gad.
Okay.
You're from...
Else is okay.
Uh-huh.
Things like that.
Maybe.
Or it's either will be or it won't.
Won't be, right? But it'll be, no, you're from Sheva Gad and you're from Sheva Menashe.
Are we like the tribes all just mixed at this point? Like everyone's from everything.
Yes.
But Minhagim still.
But at some point in time, your identity will be defined not by where you came from in exile. It'll be defined as where you come from, Shoresh HaNeshama.
Just like Minhagim, the wrong Minhagim will be dropped, and the correct Minhagim will.
Right? I mean,
I guess technically my father's bloodline all the way back goes to at least to one tribe.
Somebody.
Specifically, it has to. No?
somebody, and you'll discover it and you'll know it. And,
You hope it does.
right?
How would it not? If it goes by
Because
father.
if there was intermarriage that nobody knows about.
So that's a big shadow. That's a shadow that the Gemara has discussed what exactly it's going to be and what Eliyahu Novi is going to come along and do. It's a lot to figure out. But
For us.
there'll be that's V'heshiv Levav Salban V'Levav, and we'll get to that. But the point is that Geula to a very deep extent, probably in the deepest extent, is the shedding of external identity and the reigniting of internal identity. That's what it means. And the Jews that gave their lives that we commemorate on HaZikaron are the people that gave their lives for that. For that thing called Am Segula. Which means that ultimately what we are commemorating today is not simply the people that gave their lives for Ha'am Ha'aretz, but the people that are slowly but surely peeling away all of the layers of the filth that has been dumped on our identity for 2,000 years. The clippers of identity. To reveal that thing inside of us, which is what Rav Charlap writes here. Mitzad pnimiyosam kulam onim v'omer b'peh malik shem she'ein b'libcha ela echad, kach ein b'libenu ela echad, be'ez Hashem should be zoicha. That all of this avodah is already completed, and that no more Jewish blood will ever need to be spilt, and that the rest of this work should be done with simcha.